And I think we're live. How's everybody doing? Hey guys, how are you? It's that time once again. Sunday morning with Addicted to Gear, and I hope you guys are still gear addicted. Today is obviously a special day because we're getting towards the end of the year. And I hope all you guys are all doing extra well today. I hope you're feeling good. I hope you're enthusiastic about the year to come. And I hope you guys have some nice, interesting projects lined up for 2024. I got to get used to writing the 24 instead of the 23. And I think most of the time, the first 2 months is probably going to be writing 23 and scratching it out. Because we're not used to the 24 yet, right? All right, so forgive me, I have a little bit of not a cold, but kind of like sniffly today. I don't know why. Maybe it's allergies. I don't know. But we're going to be doing some interesting things today. We're going to be obviously talking about gear, as we normally do. We're also going to be taking a stroll down memory lane, talking about the gear that we've acquired over the last year, what's a keeper, what isn't, what we really enjoyed, what we decided to sell, and talk about all that together. So hope you guys are ready for all that. As per usual, guys, please subscribe if you're not already subscribed to the channel. I think most of the guys that are here today probably already are subscribed, but if there's anybody lurking and new to the channel, you got to subscribe to be able to chat. So please do that right away before we get into the nitty gritty here. All right. So good morning, everybody. Let me just say good morning to the guys that are here today. I'll start in reverse order so that we'll get the, usually I start from the early risers all the way to the latecomers. We'll start the other way around. So Steven is here. Steven, good morning, buddy. How are you, man? Steven, we haven't spoken in a while. I hope you're doing well. Dan of New Jersey also here. DL, good morning, DL. Mark says Wilkinson tuners for my Beretta. They're coming today. You ordered them off Amazon, I presume, Mark? I think they're going to be great. If you got the ones I put on mine, they're going to be a direct drop-in, which is great, so you don't have to drill new holes and make it messy in case you want to go back to what you already had originally. So Mark, for those of you who don't know, who haven't been here regularly, Mark ordered, or not, didn't order, he actually got a gift from his mom, which is a Kramer Beretta Special. And I saw some of the images of the guitar, Mark. It looks sweet. I think you're really going to like it. It's a great guitar. A lot of people don't know how great that guitar is in terms of like just regular modding platform. So Mark is in the midst of turning that into a custom job. So he's putting black tuners on it. I think he already installed the black bridge on it. And I think Mark mentioned he was also going to install probably a new pickup in there. All right. Yeah, after the ones from my video, Mark, should be fine. Should be fine. Give us a picture of the end result once you're done. All right. So let's see here. Shane, good morning, buddy. How are you? Steve is here also. Cool Tunes, the DD Files. Welcome. And Paul is here as well. Paul says in 4 days I'll be 77, so I bought myself a Muff Fuzz to celebrate. The last Muff I had was when a Muff was a brand new thing that just came out. I don't know. I can't help but giggle when we talk about Muffs for birthdays. Sorry, I gotta blow my nose, guys. Give me a sec. Sorry. I hate to do that when we're on camera and everything, but man. Well, first of all, Paul, happy birthday, even though it's before, it's kind of early, but I wanted to say happy birthday to you. 77 is, what is it? What do they say? 70 is the new 40 or something like that? Something similar to that. So I hope you're enjoying all of your days leading up to your 77th birthday and celebrating in style. Looks like you have the gear covered, which is good. Let us know how you like that fuzz once you get it. My knees hurt is here. And he says he's usually sleeping at this time, but woke up hours ago and could not fall back asleep. I've been doing that lately too. I don't know what it is. Like I usually open my eyes around 4, which is weird. And 4 o'clock, I try to go back to bed, but I can't. You know, it's always, I'm on and off. Jack says, Tony, I finally learned how to wax pod my pickups on my guitar. I think you mean pot. Yeah, Jack, it's not that hard, man. It's not that hard. It's actually quite satisfying once you get into it. So I guess the results of that turned out well. Your pickups stopped squealing. Which pickups did you actually wax pot? Was it a brand new set, or was it something that you already had lying around, or why did you feel you needed to wax pot them? And Jack says, Happy New Year, everyone. Yeah, before we actually forget, we're getting close to that now, right? We're getting close to... I gotta blow my nose one more time, guys. Sorry. I hope I'm not catching a cold, because I would hate to have a cold when we're supposed to be celebrating. So hopefully it's just a morning thing. So I hope you guys are going to be celebrating with the family in some way or another today, and bringing in the new year properly. Shane says it's already midnight here, so Happy New Year to you, Shane. He's ahead of us. 1/1/2024. Happy New Year, buddy. Hope it's going to be a very fruitful one for you, and full of happiness and great gear, above all. My niece here is also looking for a fuzz pedal, he says. So you might want to check out what Paul is saying. And sorry for the ringing. That's my daughter. She's sending me photos from her vacation. My daughter's lucky enough to be in Cancun in Mexico right now. So she hasn't sent any pictures so far, and today she's dumping them all. So you're gonna hear a bunch of little bells ringing throughout the show. Steven says, I get stuffy nose every time I peel potatoes now. Anyone else? No, not that. I don't have that. I don't have that effect. Potatoes don't have that effect on me. I don't know why. Usually I'm okay peeling potatoes. Jack says, I got Leo Gam's guitar for Christmas and had to pull the pickups out and wax pot them. So were they squealing? Jack, is that it? I recently wax potted some pickups as well. And to be honest, I totally forgot about them. And I got to put them back in. There's another one. I have to put them back in. I was actually thinking about that yesterday when I was playing my guitars. Eddie says, my wife and I have been recovering from the flu for 3 weeks now. It's horrible. Oh man, Eddie. Sorry to hear that, dude, but I know it's going around. A lot of people are getting that. I'm supposed to be in Chicago in a couple of weeks, so I hope I don't, get hit by the flu last minute. That would be really, really crappy. Jack says, and yes, Tony, they do sound great. Great to hear that, Jack. Music and Gear says, sorry, I'm late. No apologies necessary, Music and Gear. I'm just blowing my nose. You're not missing anything except, boogers. Sorry, guys. Surfer By, hi from Boston. Happy New Year. Same to you, Surfer By. My Niezert says, mine is purple too. I bought it to do a cool paint job on it, but I don't know what it will be. So I have, I showed you mine the other day. Sounds dirty, but I'm talking about my Kramer Beretta Special. And yeah, I didn't, I wanted to paint that one as well, but I just put on those, that sort of satchel decal on it, and I just left it for now till I could figure out what to do with it. We should all be in Cancun. Exactly. I agree. Thank you, Surfer By, reminding everybody to hit the like button. Please do, if you're close to the button, just hit that like. I would definitely appreciate that. So let's start talking about gear. Eddie says, update on the Princeton. Eddie, still building it, man. I was getting very frustrated the other day. I was actually working on it, and I'm getting to the point where I'm wiring up all of the tube sockets now. So that's critical, right? You don't want to make a mistake there. And it's the hardest part of the entire build is wiring up those tube sockets, because the gauge wire that you need, especially the heater wire they call it, this is the wire that basically lights up the tubes, has to be very thick to withstand the heat. So it's pretty thick. It's the thickest wire, gauge wire in the entire build. And you have to wrap the wires and go from like one tube to the other and so on and so forth all the way down, because it sort of cascades the connections. And it's, first of all, it's very difficult to get the wires wrapped properly and neatly, because they become very stiff when you do that, because they're thick. And then you got to get them in the right places, and it becomes quite messy. And then when you get to the smaller tubes, you have to, there's two pins you have to the pins usually go around in a circle like that, right? And the two of them have to be bent and like soldered together, and then you got to put two wires through the the pins like that, and they're so thick that they don't even want to go in. So you're trying not to break the pins, to solder them together, and then pass this really thick wire in there and keep everything neat. It's not easy. So I got frustrated. I let it be. That's one thing I learned through experience, is if you get frustrated with something, like step back, think about it, go back when you have more enthusiasm, and continue the build. So I'm getting super close to finishing it, Eddie, but it's not done yet. There is an update scheduled as well on my channel, so you'll be able to see that as well. So I'm excited, but at the same time, I'm sweating a little bit. Jack says they were highly microphonic, and now they're no longer microphonic. So a little bit of wax goes a long way. Very cool, very cool. Ben says, Tony, is the gold top, is that the gold top you finished yourself or no? Yeah, this is the one I finished myself. Yeah, it is. Can you see that? I don't know if I can get it in the light. It's like a chameleon, this thing. Depending on what kind of light you're looking at under, it changes a little bit. Sometimes it looks more green, sometimes it looks more gold. But yeah, that's the one I finished myself. I was actually doing the round robin yesterday. That's why you can see some of the cases over there. I was actually just reevaluating. Let me try and get something. That's a very flanged sound. My fingers don't cooperate this early in the morning, especially this one. It's kind of stiff. I don't know what you're hearing on your side, but it's a lot of flange on this side. Let's see here. Steve says, Paul, I ordered the Rev G2 pedal. They are having a Boxing Day sale. I think I reviewed that pedal, Steve. I think it was the G2. I know they have like G1, G2, G3. If that's the green one, then I definitely reviewed that pedal. So you can actually take a look at that, Steve, in my old videos. Yeah, exactly, Presley. Breathe deep and walk away and then come back later. And usually your brain has an opportunity to work things out. Ben says, looks great. Good job. Gold top came out amazing. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Yeah, I'm liking it. I'm going to change the pickups, obviously, on this guitar. These are stock pickups. It's not like they sound bad or anything, but I had a better set of pickups that I wax potted that I wanted to put in here as well. Let's see here. I just wanted to try and see what we got here. I wanted to maybe get a better sound. I really hate when I have the sniffles, because then it's like you're constantly trying to like. Ooh, that's a lot of delay. It's kind of like a synth sound. I'm not my favorite in the morning. Unless you like harps instead. This crazy thing. Let me just can we put a standard sound here? I don't know. Let's see. Clean. Sometimes clean is the best. All right. Let's see. Beautiful work on the gold top. Thank you, Orion Quest. Eddie says, I called and I spoke to the rep at Warmouth. I think I woke him up. He wasn't very helpful at all. What happened, Eddie? I missed it. Sorry. Did I miss it? What's up with Warmouth? What are you trying to get out of them? And my niece says it's very early at Warmouth right now. They should be sleeping. Eddie says it was last week. I like Warmouth stuff. I think their stuff is really cool. Maybe a little overpriced, but it's definitely very cool. Man, I'm so juicy today. Jean-Pierre says, Tony Lifeson. Yeah, kind of. If you squint real hard, maybe. And Steven says, I was playing the Fretlight yesterday for about 6 hours. Felt great. Another button failed in my Digitech RP2000. So I ordered 40 of them for less than 10 cents each. So Stevens is ready for massive button failure on his Digitech. He's going to be able to change those buttons for the next like 10 years if they fail regularly. Good thinking. Why not? Be ready. That's what I always say. Eddie says, Presley, California Customs, a soloist with a Floyd trying to do a Charvel Dinky. Nice, dude. I was looking at guitars like that recently too. I think those are really cool. And you're brave. You're going with a Floyd. A lot of people find those Floyds frustrating after a while, but you either love them or you learn to live with them, kind of thing. But I'm sure it's going to be really nice if it's coming from Warmouth. They got really nice bodies, great looking finishes and whatnot. Give us a few more details, Eddie. Okay. And Orion wants to know where you got the buttons from. So I guess somebody else wants to stock up on those buttons. So guys, before I forget, there is a poll question out. I usually put one out today. So if you haven't already taken the time to read it and to maybe cast your vote, please do. The poll question for today is, what influenced your gear preference the most in 2023? And when I say preference, that could be preference slash purchases. But what influenced you the most this year? Was it online reviews and demos? Was it recommendations from friends and peers? Was it in-store demos for testing? Or artist endorsements, maybe? Or just cheap deals that you stumbled on? Maybe you weren't necessarily looking for anything specific, but you're surfing the web, you're browsing marketplace, your local Kijiji, eBay, whatever it may be, and came across something you weren't really considering, but it tickled your fancy and you ended up buying it. That happens to me all the time. So cast your vote and we'll look at the results a little bit later. And if I forget, please remind me, because sometimes I do get distracted by shiny things. All right. So Steven says, I see that Fretlight. I also making the FG200 again. However, they added a D to the end and made it an LCD screen control instead of the analog switches like mine has. Okay, so modifications, I guess, are in order. Steve says it is the G2. It's the green one. I'll check out the video. Yeah, please do. It's been a while. I think it's been a couple of years since I actually made that video. But the guys over at Rev make some really good stuff. I like their amps. I'd really love to try out one of their amps eventually. Oliver, how are you, buddy? Says hi, Tony, and good morning to you. Good morning to you as well. Thank you for joining us today. Dan is here. Hey, everybody. Happy New Year, Gearheads. Hey, Dan. How are you, man? Dan the man. I bet everybody says that to you, right? Okay. And Eddie says, rear route a 720 mod. Very cool, Eddie. It warms my heart when I see people, making their guitars their own and modding them. You don't have to necessarily live with an off-the-shelf type guitar deal. You could actually get one, build it yourself, and put it together the way you like it, and really enjoy that. Mark says, trying to decide what to plug into my Blues Deluxe, the SG or the LP. It's Gib Sunday after all. Dude, I would do a little each. Start with the SG, warm it up a little bit, get those strings stretched out, and then eventually switch over to the LP. Nobody says it has to be just one, right? Yesterday, honestly, I pulled out a bunch of my guitars, and I was in that mode. You get at the end of the year, I don't know what it is. It's sort of like you get into that evaluation mode. You kind of take the time to reflect on things. Some people reflect on their life, their scenario, their current situation, and a lot of gearheads reflect on gear. So I pulled out a lot of my guitars and gear. You can see some of the cases back there and some of the guitars over here. And I was just plugging it into the Friedman full tilt. There was nobody home yesterday, so I rarely get a chance to do that often, So I plugged it in, went into the Friedman, sounded glorious. And I started playing all my guitars, pulled them out, and reevaluated them, and I'm like, this one sounds so good. And then I changed it and I took another one. I'm like, this one sounds so good. So needless to say, I didn't really make too much advancements in terms of like maybe eliminating one. The goal basically is to reevaluate the herd and try and determine which one went down a notch or two after other acquisitions, and see if there's something that could be kind of eliminated and maybe reinvested into something else. So I do have some ideas, but those guitars to me are kind of like kick around guitars. The ones I was playing yesterday are kind of like I would say the upper echelon of the guitars that I own, that I didn't really find any one of them that I felt needed to be knocked out at this point, which is in a way is good. So I don't know if you guys do that every once in a while. Do you guys take inventory? Presley says, Eddie Jr., what about getting the Stu Mac neck pocket angle shim? 4 degrees should do it. Yes, I can actually vouch for that. I did put that in one of my guitars. I actually bought an angle shim. I don't think it was 4 degrees. They have a whole bunch, right? They have from, I think, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can get some really thin ones if you need them. They're great. It sure beats putting in a pick or a folded piece of paper in the neck pocket, because it goes into the entire neck pocket, so you don't have any issues over time. I think it's worth the money. I mean, they're not cheap. I think they're about $8 a shim or something like that, but it's definitely worthwhile. You can't make them yourself, unfortunately. It's really hard to make them the way they do. They definitely have some special equipment to do that. But it's worth the effort. It's worth the money if it's a good guitar and you want to really give it top treatment. Travel Dog says, was addicted to gear. You are the culprit. Sorry, dude. Sorry. I do have a disclaimer in my notes. In case you haven't seen it, it is written there clearly. Can't get sued. Texas Toast has some good content for setting neck angles. Nice to know, Presley. Presley, it's a decked Floyd, so the neck has to be dead on. Yeah, my EVH Frankenstrat that I built is actually decked. And I actually wanted it to be floating a little bit. So for it to be floating, I almost have to give it more of a neck angle. Increase the neck shim. I don't want to go too thick on the neck shim because then it starts to look bad. The other option is obviously to go to a pro and have the neck pocket routed at an angle. But that's touchy because if you mess it up, then you're in trouble. Steven says, I love this pedal board and figured that it's worth keeping them alive. This is a second button failure for me, both on the 4 selectors. You need 6 by 6 by 4.3 millimeter momentary contact switches. So now we're getting into the techie stuff if anybody is interested in getting those things fixed on theirs. Dan of New Jersey says, Bitty is blocking both your links for Instagram and TikTok on your links. Are you talking about me, Dan? Are you talking about me? I don't know if I have any links on TikTok. Yeah, Dan, I'm sure everybody calls you Dan the Man. So, Oliver bought a new Gretsch yesterday. I will be 72 tomorrow, still rocking. Another birthday boy. Well, happy birthday, man. That's a great thing. That again warms my heart when I see guys celebrating birthdays and they go out and they get the guitar. You know, the one that they wanted. It's time. Spoil yourself, man. Why not? Enjoy. Jeff says, Happy New Year, Tony. I got myself a Crazy Tube Circuit Sidekick Junior with my Christmas pedal vouchers. It's a 3-in-1 pedal. Reverb, delay, mod. I can tell myself I can sell some pedals now, but I know I won't. Hey, Jeff, you know, the first step into, you know, knowing that you have a problem is what? You admit it, right? So you admit it, but at least you're honest. You know you're not going to sell that pedal. It's okay. I've done the same. Eventually something will come around that'll just push you over the edge and you'll end up selling that pedal for something else, I'm sure. Music and Gear says, no one home. That's a turn it to 40% time. 40? Way more than that, Music and Gear. You got to rattle some of the paintings on the wall when there's nobody home. I'm sure I was actually doing that. My ears were buzzing yesterday night. Steven says, in relation to the poll question, I started looking for used broken stuff. I figured I've repaired stuff for my entire life, so why not? Well, that's an excellent way to get some really great deals, especially on guitars and amps, if you're able to repair amps and pedals too, actually. Because, you know, once it's broken, it's not working, there's no sound coming out of it, people tend to want to just get rid of it as quickly as possible. And if you can fix it, sometimes it's basic stuff, you know? Sometimes it's just like a faulty input or output or something like that, a bad pot. You know, if that turns out to be the case, then you scored. Because those are easy to fix and they're not very expensive to fix as well. Shane says, with the weak yen, I made most of my purchases within the country. America is too expensive. Yeah, a lot of places are getting expensive, but I think the price on used gear seems to be coming down. So that bubble that we've seen, I think, is starting to like go down a little bit, maybe with higher interest rates. People are starting to feel the pinch. Maybe they're not being so greedy. If that's the case, that's a good thing. But I'm starting to see prices come down into, more realistic price points compared to what we've seen in the past. I don't know if you guys are seeing the same thing. Eddie says, I saw an interview with Dave Friedman, my hero. Love Dave. He says he tests his amps with low output PAF humbuckers. I definitely think the lower output pickups sound better, especially in cranked amps. It's like if you're pushing an amp with a lot of gain with higher output pickups, it's almost like too much saturation. Whereas if you put in, if you test them out with low output pickups, it's sort of like it's a better match. You still retain a lot of the nuances, I think, from my experience. Shane says, for your next project, Tony, you need to do a neck through headless. Wow. I've done a set neck project, which is still hanging in my garage and needs to be finished. I've never done a neck through headless design. That would be an interesting project. Actually, I'm going to show you what my next project is going to be, because my nephew, bless his heart, yesterday gave me gave me a gift. Let me give you the backstory. My nephew lives in Italy. He's always lived in Italy. He was born in Italy and he's still there. And he likes guitars. Not as much as me, perhaps, but he definitely likes guitars. And when he was younger, he actually put together a really nice, I'm going to call it an homage. An homage is basically, kind of like a replica, right? Replica of another guitar. And yesterday, he dropped it off at my sister's place, and he said, hey, if you're gonna go see Uncle Tony anytime soon, please bring him this. So I was surprised. I wasn't expecting it, and it really special, something special. So let me show you what I'm talking about, guys. I'm gonna actually show you a photo of the actual project. Let me just pull up the image for you guys. Give me a sec. Let me see if I can actually pull it up. I think I can. I think I can. Maybe you guys can guess what it is, but you probably won't be able to guess because it's not something that you think about every single day. Let me there we go. Can you guys see that? So that's what he's sending me. He did an amazing job. This was actually painted back in 2007. I can see because he actually signed the neck pocket when he made the actual paint job on this guitar. And it's a dragon. It's like Jimmy Page's dragon. And he knows I'm a huge Jimmy Page fan. I don't think he originally did it for me. I think he originally did it for him. But I think it turned out really, really great. So he's actually donating this body, and he says he wants to see me finish it and create a guitar out of it. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to take it and put it all together, and hopefully it sounds as good as it looks. I think it's a very, very sweet gift on his part, and I do appreciate it. Thank you very much, Mattia, for doing that. And I know that it probably took you a while to paint it all up, and it looks fantastic. So I can't wait to actually put that project together. A lot of you might not know this, but the The Dragon Telecaster, which is famous for its paint job, was actually not painted by Jimmy Page. I don't know if you guys realize this. I'm a huge Page fan, so I really know. I did my homework on this. But basically, the artwork on that guitar was painted by an artist called Zacron, who's no longer with us. He was a famous painter. His actual real name was Richard Drew, and he was known as Zacron. And I think he passed away in 2012, I think it was. And he also did, a lot of people don't know this, he painted the guitar, but he also painted the cover of Led Zeppelin 3. I don't know if you guys remember which album cover that is. That's the white cover with the big Led Zeppelin paint. Well, I guess it's a painting, or it looks like it's like a big Led Zeppelin written on it. It's a white cover with a whole bunch of like artsy stuff on it. Anyways, he actually did that too. And that original Telecaster, the Dragon Telecaster, was originally a 1959 Fender Telecaster that Page bought from Joe Walsh back in 1969, my birthday. And it's funny because it turns out that Jimmy Page did buy a lot of guitars from Joe. So I guess they had a relationship in that way, where I'm pretty sure that the story goes that he also bought his #1 Les Paul from Joe Walsh. So it's pretty cool, and looking forward to that design and that build. We'll see when it actually gets here and gets in my hands, and I think it's going to be pretty cool. So Mark says he's playing his Les Paul. I feel it's getting heavier in my old age. Yes, I know what you're saying, Mark, because I was actually playing my SG yesterday, and I'm like, man, this thing weighs nothing compared to my Les Pauls. It's weird, but they all feel great, even though they're heavier. Cool Tunes wants to know, when you're building your amp, do you test the resistors and or parts after you solder them for any bad leads onto the boards? I do test for continuity where I can, but I should actually test the resistors eventually, right? What I normally do is I'll put them all in. I'm actually eager to put everything in, so I try and do that quickly, and quickly is a relative term because sometimes it does take a while. I do check for continuity just to make sure that, all the way down to the lead, everything's connected, everything's working, and then I do go over the circuit and see if there's any solder joints that need to be touched up. I'm trying my best, man. I haven't done this before, so for me it's still, I'm excited, but I actually want to be very careful. I'm sure there's probably going to be some kind of a mistake. It's very easy to make mistakes, guys, so you really have to be careful and go over your steps a couple of times. I agree, Davis. Power 2 breakup is something that is hard to emulate. Exactly. And that's something that we forget, because when we're playing through one of these things, it sounds good, but it doesn't sound like an amp. There's something really nice when you get that breakup from an amp. And yesterday I realized, guys, believe it or not, that I never actually made a video of the Dirty Shirley. How could that be? I'm like, wait a minute. I never made a video of the Dirty Shirley. I got to do that. I've had that for years now. So I'm going to be doing that. And I just have to wait till there's nobody home, because that video definitely has to be cranked. Eddie likes the art that Santriani paints on his guitars. He does that with Sharpies, Eddie. So that's something maybe you can do on maybe Mark or myself, or we can maybe do that on one of the Berettas. Yeah, I do like the hand painted dragon body, and it doesn't have to be 100% accurate either. You know, it's got to be, it's like its own thing. So I'm gonna try and make that a really cool project. So I'm gonna start thinking about that. There's certain things that you can't get off the shelf for that project, at least not easily, like the pickguard, because the pickguard on that project is like a clear pickguard with some reflective material on the back of it, and it's actually not even the same shape as a standard Telecaster pickup. Has a little section in between the control pots and the and the pickups that extends a little bit outwards. So I'm gonna have to try and find one of those. I'm sure I can probably get one off of eBay for too much money, but I'm gonna wait to actually get the guitar so I can see, you know, if everything will fit. Okay, so let me talk about, I wanted to go over a couple of things with you guys today. First of all, before I actually get started, I wanted to send out a call for help. Why is because if anyone out there, I don't know if any of you guys are using a fractal, maybe not, maybe somebody who's going to come across this video later will see this, but I need help because I'm trying to connect my my pedal, which is a Mission SP1 that I purchased recently. I'm trying to connect it so I can actually control the wah and the volume on my fractal at the same time with one pedal, using the switch to go between the volume and wah effect. And I know it can be done because there's a lot of people out there saying it could be done, and they've done it, but I've actually not seen anyone describe how to do it. So I'm trying to figure it out. I can definitely control the volume. I can definitely control the wah with the same pedal, but I want to do both, and therein lies the rub. So if you guys can help me figure that out, I've been on some forums for fractal, and you know, people say that they've done it, but I'm telling you, nobody can actually show me. I've even contacted the people over at Fractal. They've sent me a video link to somebody else who's actually done it, but not on the FM9, on an earlier model. So that doesn't really help me because it's not the same. You know, so I'm hoping to figure it out. Maybe I can figure it out on my own. But if anybody out there has already done it, please let me know. It would be very, very helpful for me, and I would appreciate it. Keith, thank you so much for the super chat. Keith says, are we going to get to see a picture of Cancun? Probably not. I don't have them downloaded yet, so I don't know. I don't think so. I would have to check, and I'll do that a little bit later. I'll see what's going on in Cancun. Green Rumor says, I found one Google Fender Jimmy Page Dragon Telecaster reflective pickguard for 29 bucks on Reverb. I think I saw the same one, Green Rumor. I think I saw the same one. Yeah, I probably will end up ordering one eventually. That's part of the build. So here, I had some questions for you guys, and I wanted to go over some of the guitars that I picked up, some of the gear that I've picked up this year that I really appreciate and like, and I wanted to share that with you guys. You know, again, it's a good opportunity to kind of take stock and think about what you've got and really be thankful for it, I would say, as well. Because, you know, all this stuff is just temporary, right, guys? We're just borrowing it for a short period of time. We don't take it with us, right? So it's good to be able to enjoy this stuff, but eventually it's got to go. Somebody else is going to enjoy it. So think of it that way. You know, it's on loan, so to speak. So how do you guys typically reflect on your musical journey at the end of the year, or do you even reflect on your musical journey? Do you like to review your achievements, maybe your milestones, see how you've been doing, how you've been improving. Maybe you've been practicing and you like to be able to see how much better you've gotten over time. Perhaps you're learning songs and you can, take inventory of how many songs you've learned. Do you set new goals for yourself? Maybe you tell yourself, okay, this year I want to start practicing half an hour per day or per week or whatever it is. Or it could be a combination of things. It could be A and B. Do any of you do that? Have any of you done that? Or, is that part of the process at the end of the year? Or is it just me? Steven says, I don't have the fractal, but on the Digitech, you can assign the expression pedal to volume on one channel and wah on the other. Yeah, Steven, it works the same way on the fractal. You actually have two cables that come off of the pedal. You can put one in pedal 1 input, the other one in pedal 2, and you can assign each one separately, and they will control either the wah or the volume. The tricky part is trying to get it to switch between in the same patch. That's what I'm getting snagged up on. Eddie says, I've been binging guitar finish videos. Have got up the nerve to do it yet. Eddie, do it, man. I'm telling you, it's cool. You're gonna like it. You're gonna see it's a lot of fun. And Eddie says, I figured out Van Halen's Romeo Delight yesterday, still working on the solo. See, that's great. Aim high, man. Eddie is a great place to start. If you're going to be learning anything, spend the time to learn Eddie's solos. It's not easy, but it's once it's there, it's like it's engraved in your brain and you're going to have it with you forever. So the time that you put in and the multiple hours you put in learning songs is never wasted. Music and Gear says, looking in the Art X15 MIDI controller for an Axe Effects has 2 pedals. That's the other way to do it too, right? 2 independent pedals. I have, not to go off on a tangent, but I picked up the Mission pedal because it's just a solid pedal. It has weight to it and it's really well made. The other pedal I have will still work as a volume or a wah, but it's plastic. And it doesn't have any weight to it, so it doesn't feel good when you're using it. And this is why I wanted to get the Mission working properly. The whole idea with that is to sell the plastic one and just stay with one pedal. But maybe I gotta spend more time on it. I gotta spend more time. So what about special guitar related traditions or rituals? Do you have anything like that? At the end of the year, do you do anything special? Do you, for example, get together with and do an end of year jam with your musical friends? Do you perhaps record a performance or set out to do a show at the end of the year? Sort of an end of year blitz or bash? Or do you celebrate by buying a guitar at the end of the year? Just to say, okay, this is my last guitar of 2023. And maybe have it as a treat or something like that, I don't know. I don't really have a specific tradition that's guitar related. Maybe I should start one. But what I like to do, and I don't really think it's a tradition, I just like to go over the stuff and say, for example, this guitar was put together. I didn't buy it this year, but I refinished it this year. And it's like a new guitar for me. So I consider this a 2023 guitar, for example, that I'm enjoying. It's a nice kick around guitar, and I've always wanted to have a nice gold top like this, and it's gonna make a great modding platform for me. So, I like it. I think it's a great thing to have. The other thing here, let me just show you some of the other guitars. Let me just unplug this guitar for a minute here. I'll show you some of the other guitars that came in that I got this year. And so that one there, this one. Now you guys have seen this one, I'm sure. I did a video review of this one as well. This is the Eastman which I also got, I believe it was this year. And I was playing it yesterday, and I was playing it through my Friedman Dirty Shirley. And let me tell you, it rocks. These classic 57 classic pickups here. It's a plus in the neck. Sounds great through the Dirty Shirley. I don't know what it is about these hollow body guitars, but they do sound so great. They're so versatile. And you know, I picked this one up specifically because I heard great things about the Eastman brand. And I love my 335 from Gibson. I love the parallelograms, and the 335 doesn't have parallelograms like this. But when I saw the finish on this body, you don't really see it much. Maybe you can see it in certain lights, but it's got such great maple. You can see the maple on the top, and the way it's painted front and back. It's a beautiful guitar, man. And the neck too. And I don't regret picking this up at all. And just to show, you know, I always say that if a guitar is meant for you, it'll find you, you know. And I'm a big fan of the 57 Classics, and I did not know that the owner that I bought this from had actually upgraded the pickups in it to 57 Classics. I was going to do that anyway, right? So that just goes to show when it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And I haven't done a thing to this guitar, and it plays wonderfully, and the action is so low, and it's put together so well that I'm really happy that I had the opportunity to pick up this guitar in 2023. There's something about, you know, the sunburst finish where you can actually see the wood like this. You know, they did a fantastic job. Eddie says, Eastman is proof that China can make top-notch guitars that rival made in the USA. Honestly, Eddie, I don't think, like today, there's no question that China can make great stuff. They can make stuff better than we can, in my opinion. It's just a question of how much we want to pay. I think when you see shoddy workmanship coming out of China, it's because people are trying to get like the cheapest product out. You know, but if you give them specs and you tell them this is what you want, they will definitely be able to create top-notch stuff. I mean, let's not forget the iPhones, which we consider, you know, some of the best put-together phones today, are made in China, you know. So there's definitely no reason why they can't make excellent guitars. They definitely can. And I'm sure, you know, if there wasn't legal repercussions, you know, if we would send them a guitar and say, here, copy this, you know, that we always joke about the chip-ins and how, you know, some of them are garbage and some of them are indeed garbage, but I've seen some very good quality chip-ins, and you know, I'm sure if we, you know, give them a guitar and say, here, you know, price is no object, copy this, they'll be able to make a one-for-one copy on it, guaranteed. And I'm surprised we haven't actually started to see some like custom shop replicas coming out of China where they're actually done with the, you know, the Murphy's Lab aging and stuff like that. I've seen like cheap versions of that where you can see it's definitely cookie cutter, but I mean, they have the manpower to do all that stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if we might start seeing stuff like that happening. I'm surprised we haven't already. Green Rumor says, I usually buy tickets to concerts that's coming in the new year. This time is Government Mule in February. Awesome, dude. Hey, I love Government Mule, by the way. Great band. Yeah, they are. Great Vanzini says the Mission pedals are top notch. Happy New Year. Yes, they are. They are top notch. It's just frustrating because I can't get it to work the way I want it to. Hey, Zach. Happy New Year to you too, buddy. All the best in 2024. Music and Gear says X15 is all steel, built like a tank. I agree. Great quality. I don't think you can go wrong with that MIDI controller, man. If you're gonna buy something, the old adage is, you buy something cheap, you gotta buy it twice. You buy something good, you just buy it once, and that's. I think that holds true for stuff like that, especially if you're gonna be using it often. Gene, you're right. We lost many great musicians, but thanks to YouTube, many new young talented stars are on the rise. Yes, it's the cycle of life. What do they say? Like somebody dies every 1.8 people die every second. I think that's the number, and something like 4 people are born in the same amount of time. So, like I said, we're here temporarily, guys. This is just a blip on the radar, man. We had the pleasure to actually meet at the same time on that timeline. What are the odds? Think about that, man. Time is infinite. The time that we're together is like what? Less than 100 years, maybe. If you're lucky, 80. 85, something along those. And for us to be in that same little speck of timeline, what does that mean? It blows my mind when you think about stuff like that. Jeff says, that's true, Tony. My Gibsons have been gathering dust since I got my Eastman. And you got an Eastman Les Paul. Congratulations. I'm not saying I don't play my Gibsons. I do play my Gibsons. I love my 335. It's got a different sound. And it's got a little bit of a different feel. They're both great, but they're different. They're not the same. And I think I did a review comparing this guitar and my 335, and you can definitely hear it unplugged. The 335 sounds a lot more acoustic than this one does when it's unplugged. Like if I strum this, here, let me just turn off the volume here and just strum it. Like you can hear it. But if I play my 335, it sounds more like an acoustic guitar. It sounds more like as if the wood is aged more. I don't know if it's just the type of wood or what. You know what I mean? But it's definitely a different sound. Thomas says, when it's time for a refret, do you like to switch to stainless steel frets? I can only speak for myself, Thomas. I don't usually switch for stainless steel per se. I know there's a lot of hoopla about stainless steel frets. A lot of people like them because they're starting to appear on higher end guitars. Well, they actually even have them on lower end guitars now. But a lot of people like the stainless steel frets because they do last longer than regular frets. However, in my opinion, they do have a different sound to them. A lot of people maybe haven't noticed, but there's a little ping that I can hear when I'm playing a guitar with stainless steel frets that I don't normally hear with regular frets. Maybe it's just me. And honestly, once you start playing full blast, who cares? You're not really going to be able to hear it. But it's there. You can definitely try it. Doesn't hurt. Hey, Ken. Nice to see you, man. Terry. Terry says, 2 best guitars I got this year for the money. Firefly and Musi. Both made overseas. Currently nothing in my collection with Fender or Gibson on the headstock. I've seen a lot of reviews on those Fireflies and Musi guitars. Musi, if I'm pronouncing it correct. I'm curious about them myself. They're floating around Amazon, I believe. And I saw a lot of reviews on them. So that's good that you like them. Fantastic. Eddie says he likes the stainless steel, but not a deal breaker for me. Yeah, me neither. I mean, I'm not gonna buy a guitar just because it doesn't have stainless steel frets on it. Blip on the radar. Yeah, Oliver. That's what it is, man. That's what we are. A blip on the radar. Here today, gone later today. Shane says, I rotated my guitar so I don't often play the same guitar more than twice a week. Probably won't wear out nickel frets at that pace. Same here, man. Same here. I don't do nearly enough playing to wear out any frets on all of my guitars, really. Especially if I keep on doing the round robin here. Paul says there are a few Chinese companies that literally make custom shop quality Fender and or Gibsons, but they sell direct. And the Asian market alone buys all they can keep up with. I'm sure. But they're not replicas though. Like they don't say Fender or Gibson on them, I'm sure. But I'm positive they can make awesome guitars. Yes, the stainless steel frets and saddles can brighten your tone. And Eddie says, I have a Kramer that's over 30 years old and is just about due for a refret, so nickel frets are good enough for me. Yeah, I mean, by the time you actually wear them down, like if you have one guitar that you play all the time, you can probably, especially up here, you start getting divots in the frets. And eventually they get pretty bad, especially if the frets are lower quality. They're going to go pretty quickly. You see that on acoustic guitars a lot. But you know, if it takes you 30 years to go through a set of frets, nickel is going to be fine. Thomas says, I'm not yet too familiar with stainless steel frets, but the dream of immortal guitars is in my head. Yeah, these guitars are gonna outlive me, man. I'm telling you, they've been around for a long time, and they're gonna be around after I'm gone for sure, and maybe my kids will hang on to them for me. I hope. So this is my little review on this guitar. I'm gonna show you another guitar. So this guitar is also a guitar that I consider a 2023 because this guitar I made. You guys saw this one, the little rocker. This is the one that I put together from parts, came out really well in my opinion. And I consider this, I didn't buy this guitar per se, I put it together, but I still considered a 2023 guitar. I should actually like indicate it somewhere on these guitars. When they were actually purchased. It's got more bite. It is a Telecaster. After all. I'm actually playing these picks today. These are chicken picks, which are actually do have a brighter attack as well. So that does give it a little bit more bite. So this basically, again, really nice guitar, custom pickups. Great results with this guitar so far. I'm really happy with it. So this, again, a really nice guitar that I'm gonna probably play for a long time, and also one of the guitars that came to me in 2023. Even though I built it, like I said, it's still one of those things. So now, are you guys planning to set you know, to sell any gear off this year? Is that one of your goals, to basically just maybe make room for something new that you've been looking at? I tend to like to do that, even though sometimes it's a little bit difficult to do that, because it's, you know, you want to sell some stuff. Sometimes it doesn't sell that quickly. You got to wait. But the idea would be to maybe sell off a couple of guitars, not with anything specifically in mind yet, but just to have that little nest egg ready in case something pops up, because there's nothing worse than spotting a guitar that you want, that you have the itch for, and you don't have the liquid funds to go out and get it right away, you know? I saw a guy selling, he had posted a Jackson. It was a dinky style Jackson with a Floyd on it. And I almost it caught my attention there for a couple of minutes, but then I'm like, his price wasn't that great. Those guitars typically are not super expensive, and the price wasn't really something that I would jump on right away, but it was interesting to see. But then I thought, Floyd's, I've learned my lessons with Floyd's. Do I want to go back to Floyd's? That was the question. So I kind of let it be, and I decided just to leave it for now. Jeff says, as long as when I pop off, my wife doesn't sell my guitars based on what she thinks I paid them. I have the same fear, Jeff. I have the same fear. This is what you got to do. Write it down. Write it down somewhere. Clearly indicate what you've paid for the guitars. Make a list. Leave it somewhere. Tell somebody about that list in your family and say, if anything should happen to me, this is more or less what you should be looking at. Because otherwise, that's a fear I have too. I took my son aside the other day and I'm like, I said, one day these guitars will be yours, not all yours. Your brothers and sisters you're gonna have to share them, but I'm gonna tell you more or less how much they're worth. Just so that so mom doesn't go crazy. Let's see. Shane says that's a beauty of a Telecaster. I played a lefty Seafoam Telecaster this week, but couldn't pull the trigger. Why not? It just didn't speak to you, Shane. What was the issue? You didn't like the color, didn't bond with the color, or was it something else? Was it the feel? Shane's looking at possibly selling his Greco and maybe his Ibanez S470. And what are you looking at, Shane? Anything else? And Eddie says he's got an FGN Telecaster and it's incredible. And Shane's looking at the Bacchus Telecasters. Bacchus makes good stuff. I like the Bacchus stuff. I have a Bacchus Les Paul. I was playing it yesterday, and it's a great guitar. Great Vanzini says he sold some this year. What did you sell, man? I wish we had an opportunity to have like a place where we could, as a group, post our stuff. Reverb, we can do that on Reverb, I guess, individually, but it would be great to have like a little exchange, Because I'm sure some of the stuff you guys are selling, I'd be interested. I'd be interested in some of that stuff, and maybe vice versa. So I might have to do something like that eventually. Thomas says, still in the phase of adding stuff. Says he's still missing an SSS Strat. And it has to be Fiesta Red. And it has to be semi-modern spec. And I'd like it to be Fender USA or Japan. It's a good thing you're not picky, Thomas. It's a good thing. Thomas knows what he wants. That's a great sign. Shane also says he needs a Telecaster, an SSS Strat, maybe a hollow body. I have a feeling 2024 is the year, Shane. It's going to be it, man. I'm telling you. Mark says, I played a $300 Prince Telecaster knockoff yesterday and it was so nice. What was who made that guitar, Mark? Do you know? Mark says he should have bought it. You can always go back. So if you guys want to check out Shane's guitars, he posted them on Instagram today. I'll have a look later on today, Shane. Dan got a Kramer Assault 220 for Christmas. And what's the verdict on that guitar, Dan? Great Vanzini says mostly Gretsch Streamlines. 3 Telecasters, nice. I haven't owned a Gretsch yet. So, if anything, I've waited this long to get an SG, and I regret it. I regret not getting the SG. Thankfully, Mark, for some, stranger reason, I don't know if you mentioned something, Mark, or if I saw your SG, or I don't know what happened, but I got the I got the little seed planted in my brain, and then for whatever reason, I ended up trying one again in a shop and didn't bond with the one in the shop. But then one popped up on the used market and it was like mint condition, and I ended up grabbing it. And I'm so happy I did, because that is like such a sweet playing SG. And I'm like, why did I wait so long? But I know I actually tried SGs before. I've tried them many times and I just didn't land on the right one. I think that's what it ended up being. It was simple as that. You know, so sometimes I'm thinking, how many people go through that where they might try a strat and it's not the right one, and they play it and they're like, strats are not for me, and they give up. Or the same thing with Telecasters. You know, same thing with Telecasters, like, Telecasters is not for me. They didn't, they didn't end up on the right one. When you land on the right one, it changes your perspective completely. Mark says, I worked on you quite a while to get an SG. Yeah, maybe you did, Mark. I think you did. I think, subliminally you were sending me the messages. So I have to thank you for that. You're part of the reason why I'm enjoying that guitar. So I'm going to take it out of the case. I'm just going to grab it a second. Give me a second, guys. I'm going to put this one down here. Things are getting tight around here, so I got to be careful. Let me just grab it here. Every time I lift this guitar up, I'm always amazed at how light this thing is. I'm like, compared to a Les Paul, I'm like, wow. Let's see, what do we have here? Let's do some drive, chorus, and delay. Maybe a little bit too much delay. Yeah, too much delay. Let's look at something else. What do we have here? We have a patch that says OD clone. Love this thing. This guitar honestly weighs nothing. I think at one point I actually weighed all my guitars, and it's amongst the lightest, because look how thin it is. You guys know that the SGs are thin. The neck on this guitar is very slim. Well, very slim. Not Ibanez slim, but a great neck. Love it. And this guitar is great for everything. It's great for jazz, it's great for rock, even clean. It does everything. And I don't have any trouble playing it. So why did I wait so long? Guys, if you really want an SG, I'm gonna play it forward. Mark did it for me. I'm gonna do it for you guys. Get one. I'm telling you. You're not going to regret it. Eddie says, you guys and your SGs, you're killing me. Are we killing you in a good way? Are we encouraging you, or are we discouraging you? As long as we're encouraging, that's fine. Mark says, I'm going to grab my SG too, putting the Les Paul down. Yeah, let's do it, man. Too bad we can't do a virtual jam or something like that, I would love to. At the end of the day, we're going to have to eventually figure out a way of doing that, so we can actually just jam virtually online or something. That would be great. Mark says their own animal SGs have a snarl that's different from the Les Paul, and yeah, it's true. They are different. But for me, it's it is the sound, but it's also just the playability. I find it so much easier to play. I think it's just the thin body and the way the neck just attaches like right here. So you can actually like go way beyond the neck if you need to. So you know, hitting those very last notes, very easy to do. There's nothing in the way. The only thing with an SG is that because of that, the way the neck is set, it's sometimes it throws you for a loop. You know, you think you're in a certain position where you're actually a little bit further out. So there's that little adjustment phase, but once you get used to it, it's hard to put it down. Gene says, I have an SG by my side as well. Eddie said, I've never held an SG in my hands. Eddie, so it's the time, man. I'm telling you. Presley says, my 71 SG is so sweet. A lot of people have SGs. Great. I'm happy to see that, man. Very nice. Shane says, Toman have lefty Telecaster kits now for $100. So you can definitely pick one up. Maybe build one of your own guitars. Shane says, I personally don't like the feel of an SG. Not a good design. Shane. I don't know, man. I felt that way a long time where I didn't like the look of an SG, and when I tried SGs, I didn't like the feel of them. But again, it was because I wasn't playing the right one. Give it another chance. Give it another chance. You will find one, I'm telling you. Gene says you have to have long arms to play an SG. I felt like that a little bit. It's true. You definitely have to get used to it a little bit more. Hey, Randy. Randy just got here. Happy New Year, Randy. Nice to see you, buddy. We're talking about SGs. I was just going through a couple of guitars, Randy. Just some stuff that I've picked up this year. And I was just thanking Mark for convincing me through his mind-melding techniques, influencing me through the internet to pick one up. And I ended up grabbing one of these Gibson SGs recently. And this is probably one of my favorite acquisitions for 2023, I have to say. Really beautiful guitar. Gene says, I glued a t-shirt to a Telecaster kit body. So Gene's doing the fabric thing. Very cool. Randy says, Batman Slim. A lot of times people are referring to these SGs as Batman when they have the pick guard on both sides. Great Vanzini says, do you have a favorite SG player? Not really. I didn't end up buying an SG because I like Tony Iommi or Angus or Dweezil maybe. Dweezil Zappa. Frank Zappa used to play one. I know. Back in the time. Who else? Who else was a great... a lot of jazz players. Some of the jazz fusion players played SGs as well. Frank Marino, I believe, had an SG for a while too, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure I'm forgetting people. Music and Gear says, never played an SG. I hear so many good things about them. So there's a lot of SG newbies that haven't ever tried one. I'm surprised. I think SGs typically don't get as much love for some reason. Presley says, SG delivered the heavy. Back in the day, they were the entry to metal. I think so. Yeah, a lot of them probably consider them to be the entry into metal. I know a lot of people just didn't like the look of them. And me too. It took me a long time to warm up to them. But I think I've matured. So here I am. Jeff says, 45 years I've been playing. Never played an SG until 2023. I now have two, a 61 and a Tony Iommi. They're awesome. I'm like you, Jeff. I'm like you, man. It took me a long time. Eddie says, is the 61 SG the one with a slim taper neck? It is slim. Yeah. I like the slim. The slim slim taper neck is the one for me. Yeah, Jerry. How can I forget Jerry Garcia? And I can get the action so darn low with this thing. It's incredible. My buddy who plays in the same band as me, you know, he's got a beautiful old Black Beauty Les Paul. I reviewed on my channel as well. Great guitar. Heavy guitar, but great. And he's got a Strat, he's got a Telecaster, he's got a 335, and he came over and played this one, and he's like, I gotta get one. He's on the lookout for one, and every once in a while when I do come across anything interesting at a good price, I send it to him, but I usually don't hear any responses because he says, you know, his wife is watching, so there's you know, he can't, the timing's got to be right, you know, but eventually I'm sure he'll probably get one, and he's gonna love it. So Derek Trucks, yes, of course, Ken. Jeez, I totally had a blackout. I blanked out on that one. Of course, Derek. How can I forget Derek? He's the man on the SG. So Mark has the standard. I have the 61. So Mark's neck is quite a bit different from mine. I just love the slim neck on mine. So see, there's something out there for everyone. It's just finding the right one. Randy says SGs are balance weird for me. I'm a true Strat guy. I get what you're saying, you know, the balance thing with the strap. I think it's also the location of the strap button being right here by the neck. You know, obviously if it was here, it'd be easier to balance, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Davis says, I'll take the 61, a 61-ish. Paul says, my number one is my Gibson SG Standard limited edition. It's flawlessly finished. It came out of the box with very low action and intonation. It came with 57 classics, but from 2014 inventory. See, these don't have 57 classics in them. And I thought I wouldn't like these pickups as much, but they definitely have a nice sound to them. Nice bite. I like them. I'm not going to change these out for 57 classics. I like these pickups. And what I really like, sometimes you see these SGs where the action is so high and the pickup, especially in the neck position, is way up high. This one isn't. Look how low it is. Can you see that? I like that. Some of the ones that I've seen, I don't know, for some reason have like the bridge pickup sticking out like half an inch, maybe even more sometimes, and it looks weird. This one isn't like that. GL Trem says, despite perhaps not getting the love it deserves, the SG is the only Gibson which has been in production since its inception. You're right. It was never discontinued, was it? Interesting. That's an interesting tidbit there. Thank you for sharing that. DMAX says, what's the difference between the neck on the 61 and the standard SG? It's really just a question of how thick it is. This one is actually not that thick and bulky, whereas the other ones are a little bit fatter. In actual fact, this neck reminds me a lot of the neck on my 335. So it's got a lot in common with my 335, which I like. Eddie says, I told you guys before, my boss bought an SG brand new back in '62. He said he paid $250, which was a ton of money back then. And does he still have it, Eddie? Maybe you can buy it off him. So I really wanted one in my youth, says Great Vanzini. I was a big Cipollina fan. Music and Gear says, great show, Tony. Love watching. Thank you, buddy. Nice. It's great to have you here. Shane says, SG balance weird and look like a 4-year-old designed it. Shane, I'm not going to disagree with you, buddy, because I felt the same way. All right? So I'm just letting you know. I felt the same way. I didn't warm up to SGs. It took a long time. So if you don't like it, I get it. I absolutely do. And Presley says, I absolutely play different when playing an SG versus a Strat. Way more power chords. It's true. Yeah, you're right, Presley. You do play different things when you're playing on an SG, I find. It's like the same way you play differently when you're playing on a Les Paul. You know, the guitar will definitely guide you in terms of how you play. I'm not saying it makes me play better. I don't think any guitar can do that, but it definitely makes you play different or different things. Hey, bye, Music and Gear. Thank you for swinging by. I get the honey to do this list. I got it. I understand. I can't stay that long either. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are probably going to have to drop off too. But I'm going to stay a little bit longer. You're right. Mark, the standard neck, I maybe used the wrong words earlier. It's not huge. It's just more rounded. Yeah, where this is slimmer. Paul says the SG for decades was priced to never be more than an American Strat. That has changed. A lot of things have changed. Yes, indeed. Hey, Frank. Nice to see you, buddy. So, guys, Frank is here. Let me tell you, I mean, I mentioned you last week, Frank. Maybe you weren't here last week. But Frank was the gentleman that I did buy the Mission pedal from. And thank you for that, Frank. I really do like the pedal. It's great. I appreciate it. Frank and I had an opportunity to chit-chat a while, and Frank is definitely addicted to gear like all of us are. He's got a nice little collection going on himself. So thank you for swinging by, Frank, and hopefully you have a great Christmas Eve today. We're just going through some gear. That's all. Regular stuff. Rexomatic says, do you find yourself leaning towards big brand guitars as you get older, even with so many nice alternatives? Yes and no. I think as you get older, you do become a little bit more picky in your tastes. And obviously, I think you have to go through a lot more inexpensive guitars to find good ones. I'm not saying that you can't get a good inexpensive guitar. You can definitely get good inexpensive guitars, but I think they're a little bit harder to find. There's a lot more duds when it comes to inexpensive guitars, but I have some inexpensive guitars that play wonderfully. So you have to really be patient when you're looking at more inexpensive guitars. Not to say that expensive guitars are always bang on, because I've played expensive guitars that I didn't necessarily bond with. So it's, you know, that's why I say it depends. I do like to lean towards better known brands as I get older, because I do feel it is a better investment, not because I want to be a cork sniffer snob or anything like that. I just feel like those guitars tend to hold the investment a little bit better. So if you're like me and you're going to be flipping guitars on a regular basis, you do want to be able to not lose too much money on the deal, where you know, if you buy off the shelf Ibanez or something like that, that is not necessarily anything special, they tend to drop quite a bit if you're buying them right out of the store, right? So if you're buying them used, that's a different story. But if you're buying them right off the rack, you're going to take a big hit if you actually flip the guitar eventually. So that's how I look at it. Frank, I'm still trying to, I did try the pedal. It works really well. As I mentioned earlier, though, I'm still trying to figure out how I can configure my fractal to be able to use the pedal with one pedal to control the wah and the volume and switch between. So I can control the wah no problem. I control the volume no problem, but it's tricky with the configuration to try and figure out how I can set it up to do both in the same patch. So I'm trying to do my research and trying to figure out how that's done. But once I get that dialed in, I'm going to love it even more. So fantastic. Ed's here. Hey, Ed. How's it going, buddy? Frank confesses he bought 2 guitars. Frank, so did it turn out well? I know you were looking at going and trying out a guitar while I was there that day. So let me know how it turned out, man. What did you end up getting? Share with us. Eddie says, Tony/guys, should I pay for a refret or invest in tools? At the end of the day, it's almost a push. Eddie, I would say if you've never done a refret before, get it done by a pro. Yes, you can eventually work your way in up to doing it yourself, but if it's a guitar that you really like and if it's a valuable guitar, you definitely don't want to try to do a refret for the first time on an expensive guitar. Work your way up to it. It's always a good investment to buy tools and to teach yourself how to do it. But I would say work on cheap guitars or buy like a throwaway neck or something you find like somebody getting rid of for like peanuts, like 20 bucks or something that's been beat up, and try a refret on it. You know, see if you can bring it back to life. Do that a couple of times before you actually attempt it on your own guitar, just to be on the safe side. So Ed says, I've bought 2, I guess you meant to say inexpensive, music guitars, and they really impressed me with the value and quality for the money. You're the second guy talking about it today. Better than guitars I paid twice as much for. Musi Capricorn and Musi Virgo are great inexpensive guitars. So a lot of people are talking about those guitars. Like I said, you can definitely get some really good quality inexpensive guitars. You can. You know, with a little bit of TLC, you can make those guitars great. So Presley says, Eddie, Rosewood fingerboard ? Unbound ? Get the tools and do it. But if it's a finished maple neck, I'd get a few refrets under my belt before doing a finished maple board. Same thing I said. I think we agree on that, Presley. It's not as easy as you think. I mean, it's not rocket science, but there's definitely, it can be tricky in certain cases. So take your time. Happy New Year, Ed. Thank you for wishing everybody a Happy New Year. And thank you for joining us too. JL Trem says, Tony, is the ES to your right behind the Les Paul and Eastman? The ES to your right behind the Les Paul? Yes. I just showed it, JL Trem. You just missed it. You'll have to catch it on the rewind. Can't speak. Catch it on the rerun. Yes, it is an Eastman. Yes, I was just showing some of the guitars that I picked up this year, and this is one of them, as well as that one. Here, so I'm going to tell you. We're talking about cheap guitars. Here, let me just show you one. This is also another guitar I picked up this year, and it impressed me, man. It's a great guitar. Let me put this one down. Give me a sec. Talk amongst yourselves while I put this one back to bed. So this guitar impressed me because it wasn't expensive. It's got really nice specs, and I got to give credit where credit is due. This is a Harley Benton. This is one of their Pro models, the Pro series. And great guitar. Has a Floyd on it, and it works very well. It's got the push pot to split the coils. It's got, you know, the nice tummy tuck, the rounded joint here at the neck. Check out this neck, beautiful roasted. It's a great guitar, and I was actually blown away by this guitar. So this is one of these guitars, won't set you back that much money, and it's got some really nice features. It reminds me a lot of my Sir, and you know, the Sir is like way more expensive than this guitar. It's a fraction of the price, and it's got, you know, full frets all the way, you know, nice long fretboard, and it just feels great. Feels way more expensive than it is, and this was one of the guitars that I purchased this year that really surprised me a lot for the money. And I didn't have to do anything to this guitar. Even the pickups sound great. So, you know, it just goes to show you don't have to spend a lot of money to get a great guitar. Rexomatic says, I agree with your thoughts on inexpensive guitars and holding value, but I was surprised by my new Revolta. A really wonderful guitar, fit, finish, and tone. And Frank says the ES339 was perfect, but the Les Paul ended up being a Chinese copy. And I just returned it where I bought it and gave them a course on how to spot good copies. I was even tricked by the serial number. Frank, it's tricky to, you know, there's a lot of copies floating around, and usually the sign to spot a copy is the price. If you can, you know, if it's under $1,000, it's definitely a copy, right? Frank says, I should have known when there was no case. Chinese Gibsons don't have any. That's not necessarily true. I've ordered Chinese copies in my day that came with a case that looked exactly like a Gibson case. There's other ways to spot a fake Gibson. One of the easiest ways is to actually just take off the truss rod and look at the truss. The copies don't have the same kind of bullet truss rod. They usually have the regular, you know, same kind of truss rod you'd see in a Strat kind of thing in there. Not the same. Just look at the guts. The guts will tell you the entire story. Not hard to, you know, and a lot of times you won't really find a Gibson Les Paul copy that has the nibs on the fret ends. They usually don't put them on. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Jean-Pierre says, she loves you, 219. What? Who loves me? Presley said, Eddie Jr., get the tools and do a couple of practice trials on a junk neck and have at it. You can definitely do it. You have the skills and the desire from your previous victories. I know you can. Yes, you can. But yeah, definitely try a couple, you know, try a couple first. Just get comfortable with it before you do anything else. All right, should we jump to the poll question, guys? I've been talking an hour and a half, and I think you guys are probably going to have to jump off soon and do things with your families. Let's look at the poll question, shall we? Let me go there and see what the results are of the poll. Give me one quick minute here, guys. All right, so it's in the community section. as per usual. So the question today was, what influenced your gear preference the most in 2023? And we have 197 votes. So let's look at the results. So not surprisingly, at least not to me, the online reviews and demos came in first. 61% of you said that was the main influence of your gear preferences in 2023. So I don't think that's going to change. I think that is still perhaps the first place we tend to look when we're looking at getting any advice on new gear. It's usually YouTube. It's usually channels like mine and others out there that are doing reviews and whatnot. So I do that. I'm sure a lot of you do too. That's why you're here. 61%, no surprise there. All right. So number 2, and that's not a big surprise for me because I do that too. So I can see we're on the same wavelength here, guys. So 25% of you said cheap deals you stumbled across on the used market. That's typically how I go about getting my gear. You know, I'm looking, I'm scrolling. Hey, you know, a Mesa Boogie Mark 1 popped up. Maybe I need one. You know, that's how I kind of do it too. So 25% of you who voted also do it that way. So the other 3 responses are kind of neck and neck. So in-store demos and testing came out on top in the final 3, which is surprising. Well, in-store demos, I'm not surprised that you walk into a store and you try out stuff, but I'm surprised that's only 9% of you. So a lot of you guys are not hitting the stores first, which is interesting to me. But I can see how, you know, you walk into a store, you try a guitar, you like it, you walk out with it. It's normal, but only 9%. That's surprising. Next, recommendations from friends or peers. 5% of you said, you know, you follow the advice of your friends. I don't really tend to do that much, you know, except for Mark. You know, Mark convinced me, so okay, maybe I do that to a certain degree. But yeah, I think, you know, obviously if you try a guitar and your friends like that particular guitar and they rave about it, you know, it will spark your interest. So 5% of you do it that way. And the last one is artist endorsement. That really surprised me. Because back in the day, you know, artists used to sell a bunch of guitars. Has that stopped? Has that ended? Is there nobody out there that's influencing our purchases anymore in terms of artists? I'm surprised. Yeah, you know, people like Steve Vai, Satriani, Eddie Van Halen, all those guys. Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page. So we're not following our idols anymore? I'm surprised. Wow. Interesting. So I learned something new today. Eddie, I'm like you, buddy. Most stores don't have the crazy stuff I'm interested in. It's true. There's no stores in my area that have like the, you know, the stuff that you find in the fringes, not like commonplace stuff. And I can see why. It's hard to, you know, buy stuff and stock inventory that is sort of out there that doesn't sell as much. But I would love to have a store like that. Mark says artist endorsements don't really matter to me as I get older. Well, Mark, I kind of agree with you on that because I realized, you know, and as I got older, that a lot of the gear that artists do endorse is not what you're buying at the end of the day because their stuff is heavily modified. So if you go out and buy, let's say, an Eric Clapton Fender, I don't know what, you know, one of their amps, you're not getting the amp that Eric Clapton plays. You know, it's similar, but very much not the same. Same goes for the guitars. You know, if you're going to buy yourself a David Gilmour Strat, it might look like it, but it's not it. Same thing with Eddie Van Halen guitar and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of don't buy into it anymore. And if I want a, you know, an SRV Strat or something like that, I'll make my own, really. That's what it boils down to. So I'm kind of like you in those regards, but I still think that there's a lot of people that do get influenced by, you know, their idols, I think. I probably wouldn't be playing Les Pauls if it wasn't for Jimmy Page, you know. But then again, a lot of people are playing Les Pauls for different reasons. Thomas K says they still matter, but you don't feel artist influence anymore that much because their influence is lurking in a natural way in the background. Yeah, and I think it's really come down to a lot of the artists that we know and love are getting older and are being replaced by the new generation, which maybe don't have as much pull. Dan says, I watch reviews but still prefer to try it before I buy it. Oh, I highly recommend that you try it before buying it. Don't buy anything based on a review. You know, even my reviews. Please, don't make that mistake. You got to try it, because just because I like something doesn't necessarily mean you will. You know, it's a very much personal taste. So definitely try stuff before you buy it, especially if it's expensive. Frank says, by the way, the copy played great and loved it till I checked the bridge and tailpiece. Have a good day. And, you know, Frank, just because it's a copy doesn't mean it's still not a good guitar. If it's being sold for the right price and you're buying it for the right reasons, knowing that it's not a real Gibson, that doesn't necessarily stop me. I've purchased Gibsons before. A lot of them I ended up selling. Some I end up keeping. If they're really good guitars, I don't really care. And I use them to, I upgrade them, I work on them, and I make them my own. So as long as you know you're not being taken for a ride. If somebody's telling you straight out, hey, this is a Gibson, I'm not trying to pull one over your eyes and I'm selling it for the appropriate price, it's okay. I find it's okay. Some people don't agree with that, whatever. That's a whole different discussion. That's how I look at it. A good guitar is a good guitar. Eaglehead Terra says, I prefer Gibson electric guitars. However, when I recently bought 2 budget guitars, I had to get approval from guys like you, Tony, or other YouTube guitar show guys when they reviewed the guitar. So you're saying basically there is some value in watching or reviewing some guitar demos. I agree. I think if a demo is done properly, they're going to tell you the truth and they're going to point out the shortcomings as well as the highlights. And at the end of the day, it's really up to you to make that decision. But I would still highly recommend you guys try out the stuff before you buy anything. Hey, Paul, thank you, man. Paul says, thanks for another great live stream. My pleasure, Paul, and thank you guys. John Petrucci, Mesa amp is the same. So Dan says, anybody going to have a New Year's jam? I was going to ask the same question. Would be great. Unfortunately, everybody gets together with their families, and at the end of the day, you're not able to necessarily sometimes have those New Year jams. One of the highlights was a couple of years ago when we did that. Was a Christmas thing, and I had a blast. Hopefully we'll do that again sometime. Whoa. All right, guys, I've been talking almost 2 hours. I'm going to wrap it up because I know you guys are busy today, as am I. I want to thank you guys for making this Sunday special, extra special, because it is the last day of the year. And I want to wish you guys all a fantastic 2024. I'm looking forward to all the great stuff waiting for us in 2024. I know that there's going to be a lot of great things in all of our lives, and hopefully we can still gather here on a regular basis on Sundays and discuss all of that. And I'm not just talking about gear, I'm also talking about other things. And I invite you guys to tune in regularly to the Addicted to Gear channel so that we can, enjoy and spend a little quality time with one another. Like-minded individuals always help. And for me, it's therapy. It really is. And I think for some of you out there, probably means the same. So I appreciate you guys stopping in. It really means a lot to me that you guys, spend time with me here. It's kind of like a family, and I always love tuning in on Sundays to see how you guys are doing and what's going on in your lives. So please mark it down on your calendar. Sundays are usually Addicted to Gear Sundays. keep that in mind, and please tune in regularly. I would really appreciate that. All right. Thank you so much for everybody out there. Have a great 2024 celebration. Bring in the new year with a bang and think positive thoughts, because I know that 2024 is going to be an amazing year, much better than what we had to deal with in the last little while. So full tilt on 2024. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great 2024. Tune in again next Sunday. We'll be here, and I'll hear all about your celebrations at that point. Have a great one, guys.